Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Sanacandra. I'm the state representative for both Framingham and Ashland, and I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm thrilled that we have this panel here. This is an important night, and it's important because how important early literacy is. So I'm excited to be here. We have a great panel. I'm just going to spend a few words to just say why I'm excited here. One of my roles in the State House is actually chairman of higher ed. So we look at higher ed issues. A lot of you folks in the audience are still thinking preschool. But from us from the state level and from the policy level, and some of us more mature folks actually see education as this continuum, which I'm sure Dr. Killens is going to say is birth
prenatal.
Prenatal. Well, we're getting so, but it's true. It's true. It is true. So you really need to look at education as this continuum all the way from birth or prenatally, all the way through higher education. And one of the challenges we have in higher education is seeing how do we coordinate the K-12 system or the B-12 system with higher education. This is the very beginning and the foundation of how we do that. So this is an important night. I'm glad this panel is here. I'm going to introduce this expert panel that's here with us. First off, we have Dr. Sherry Killens, who is the Commissioner of Early Education and Care for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as part of the Patrick Murray administration. Dr. Killens is a very passionate person about this issue. We had some conversations before on how important it is to get families out and teach families what's important in getting early literacy going and how important it is. And now you, the folks in the audience and the folks watching at home, how you can be the ambassadors to educate other folks on how important this is and how critical it is to the future of not only your families, but the families across the Commonwealth. So she's here. She's been commissioner since 2009. She's worked in the as part of started a quality rating and improvement system for early education and care out of school time, and looked at multiple environments, including family child care, public schools, and center-based provider programs, as well as Head Start. She's coordinated 4 statewide systems, mental health, educator, provider supports, community and family engagement, and information and referral for early educators. And she's worked as an advocate for children and families in many ways for more than 20 years. We also have Kelly Kersrud, Director of Reading Proficiency at Strategies for Children. As Director of Reading Proficiency, Kelly Kersrud guides the organization statewide campaign to ensure that the children in Massachusetts become proficient readers by the end of the 3rd grade. Prior to joining this organization, Kelly earned her master's in education at Harvard Graduate School in Education with a concentration in language and literacy. And she's been working, prior to that, she worked as a middle school math teacher in Santa Monica, California, an alternative middle school. We're also joined by Betsy Salamone, early education coordinator for Ashland Public Schools. Betsy has lots of experience in this field, and I know. And I know Pat does as well, because my children were taught under these folks. My youngest son was actually at the preschool here. Actually, it wasn't located here. I don't believe it was located at the middle school at the time. And Betsy was involved as coordinator for special education for my oldest son, who's now 28, so that means it must have been a while ago. So we have a depth of experience and excitement on this panel. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Killens to lead us off. Dr. Killens?
Thank you so much, Rep. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's so important, and the Patrick administration recognizes that in order for our children to develop, schools are important, and we're in a school, and we shouldn't lose that fact, but that children actually develop in the context of neighborhoods and networks of families and communities. And so your being here today is really important. And we don't want you to think, although literacy is really important, that you can do that alone, that children need safe housing and health and nutrition and recreation and children's programming, libraries and museums, and a couple are here today. And if you're an adult who's struggling, you might need access to economic development support to get another job, or adult literacy in order to be effective in this role. And so while we talk about literacy in the context of the whole child's social development, their emotional development, their physical growth and development are very important to their ability to connect and be in relationship, which is so critical when we talk about early literacy. I want to tell you a story, and then I'll give you some examples of things that you can do. There are three parents, and this comes from a book by a woman named Phyllis Hunter called It's Not Complicated, and it's talking about reading and helping children to learn to read. And she says there are three parents who come into the grocery store, and I'm going to tell you about each one of them separately. And I hope you see yourself in one of the stories. So one parent comes into the grocery store. It's 8 o'clock at night. She's tired. She's got a 4 or 5 year old in a grocery cart. And the child says, Mommy, what's that? And she says, look, we got to get out of here. It's late. I've got to get you to bed. You got to go to school tomorrow. We're just trying to pick up something for dinner. And she dashes through the grocery store. Great mom. She's focused on getting her to bed, focused on helping her to get something to eat so that she can do that. Second mom, 5-year-old, 4-year-old in the grocery cart, comes into the grocery store, goes to the vegetable aisle, and the daughter says, Mommy, what's that? And she says, oh, it's an eggplant, but we don't like that, and so we need to hurry up because we've got to get home, you got to go to bed, and you got to be able to go to school tomorrow. And the third parent comes in, same child, different child in the grocery cart, and rides through the vegetable aisle, and the child says, Mommy, what's that? And she says, oh, that's an eggplant. It's one of the few purple vegetables that we have. Look, feel it, is kind of taught. She says that, the seeds inside of it are light like an apple, although they're a little bit softer. And you know how you like chicken parmesan? A lot of people eat eggplant parmesan, connecting that food to another experience. She said, well, maybe we'll buy it and we'll take it home and cut it, and you can see what it looks like on the inside. So 3 stories, 3 great moms, 3 moms caring about the well-being of their children, but having a very different interaction. And that third child, where the experience was connected to her life, connected to her experience, she got the labeling, which the second child got the labeling, but she didn't know what it meant or how to put it in her context, is going to have a much broader vocabulary and be able to be connected. So there are things that you can do in your everyday life that support literacy development in young children. We need to support our children to become successful readers. And I'm going to give you another example. This book, Hello Ocean, by Hola Mar. You can't talk to kids all the words that they need to have in order to develop and have a really strong vocabulary. We just don't use enough words in our vocabulary. So it's necessary and essential that you read books to children, that you tell stories from your lifetime and from your experience. So I'm just going to read you a couple pages to get you a sense of vocabulary. This is a very, I guess the librarian could tell me what level the book is, but the first page is Hello Ocean, My Old Best Friend. Just having a conversation with your child about what's it mean to be an old best friend. Here's my favorite. I'm here with the 5 of me again. Well, that doesn't quite make sense to me. So I looked in the picture and I tried to count 5, and maybe she's counting the shadow plus her, and then her family's following behind. Yeah, one more page. And then on the next page, it says, I see the ocean gray, green, blue, a chameleon always changing hue. Well, there are 2 words there that you wouldn't normally use in conversation, chameleon and hue. And so when you read stories to children, it's an opportunity to engage, to experience, to develop their vocabulary as they go through. You really should be working to have oral language and do bedtime stories in a round-the-clock way, even if children go to a really high-quality preschool or a really high quality child care setting or family child care setting or Head Start, what you do at home the rest of the day matters. And building a strong vocabulary is the linkage to success as they move through school. And making sure that children are comprehending what they're reading is so important, because often we read books and we do it as a task and we move on. But allowing the child to read the same book over and over and to begin to tell you the story is a part of the learning that we want them to do. We also want them to read non-fictional texts. If you've got a cookbook and you're trying to do a recipe, working through that with your child and helping them see that the structure of that book is very different than the structure of the storybook is a critical skill to helping them believe and grow. Lots of our children have multiple factors that lead to them not being ready for school, and you should be working with your pediatrician in your preschool to have those assessments done to make sure your children are on track, and make sure that you're able to take them to the library and the museum just outside for a walk and explore and talk about what's in the surrounding as a way of preparing them in order to go to school. So understanding that in Massachusetts we've got really strong standards of what we want children to know. We're not asking children to do anything they can't do. We know from the brain science, we know from development that they are engaged and interested in a strong supportive relationship. They're able to take in lots of information that they may not be able to use right away, but they can recall at a different point. We want you to be supporting them to mix those great genes that you gave them when you birthed them with good opportunities for information and growth. And we want you to know that we're really all responsible for the development of children. And so be careful how other people talk to and treat your children as well as you go out and look for opportunities for them to be engaged, because we want them to be supported and we want them to be excited about reading and learning. And if you got the child at home who says, "Ooh, I don't want to read, I don't like it," well, find something they like. If they like sports, if they like flowers, if they like cooking, I guarantee that over time they'll connect with that literature and be excited about reading the way we are. And it really is a success factor, not only for you and your family, but also for our Commonwealth, as we're really building the next workforce for the Commonwealth and for a global economy. Thank you.
I was asleep at the switch there. Hold on a sec. Thank you. I was so intrigued by
I'm sorry.
Dr. Killen's explanation. I learned a lot during that process that I didn't know either. So that was great. Next we have Kelly Cursorett, who's the Director of Reading Proficiency at Strategies for Children. Take it away, Kelly.
Okay, so I'm coming, building off what Commissioner Killens is saying, who has been a key champion in this early literacy work, and in our work here or at Strategies for Children, which is the organization that I work for. I want to kind of share another kind of key prong to this collective effort that we're all embracing in terms of early literacy work, and especially high quality early education. But I think before I start to delve into kind of what that key prong looks like a little bit from my organizational perspective, I do want to tell you that how I've kind of re-envisioned what collective and collaboration work looks like. I come from a teaching background. I taught for 8 years, 4 years in the Washington, D.C. public schools in second grade, and then in the Los Angeles public schools for 4 years, teaching middle school math, which you heard. And so when in that experience, obviously collaboration to me looked like teacher-to-teacher collaboration, teacher-to-principal collaboration, teacher-to-parent collaboration, all trying to have this kind of collective impact on early literacy or the development of children's literacy abilities from birth to middle school, which is what I was teaching in LA. And upon that, coming here to Massachusetts and seeing that collaboration actually has a completely different definition for me now. And what does that look like? That collective collaboration actually involves much more than just the setting level of which I was working in with teacher-to-teacher collaboration, teacher-to-parent collaboration, but now it is quite a statewide effort. And collaboration means, having an impact with every single adult that is a part of a child's life from birth, whether it be with collaborating with the pediatrician or collaborating with the early childhood director or collaborating with your state rep, and that there is so much going on at the statewide level, and how can we all within our own specific setting level, be a part of the bigger effort as well. And so I think as we kind of look to this story of us and how we can all be a part of a bigger picture, especially across the statewide network, we do need to have a sense of urgency about it, because if we look at what's happening across the state, the stakes are quite high, and Ashland and Framingham are a part of that. We know that in Massachusetts, 61% of our children are only reading on grade level by the time they're in 3rd grade, which, while that seems, over half, and that might be strong, that's quite a bit off the 100% on grade level mark. And the implications for that, if a child is not reading on grade level by the time they're in 3rd grade, 3/4 of them are most likely to not graduate by the time that they're 19. And we also know that they're 4 times less likely to struggle through the kind of their educational trajectory from 3rd grade on. So it does have high implications, and 3rd grade is by all means not the first time that we should look at children. It's our first benchmark that we have in schools, and I know that a lot of our statewide work is looking how can we make sure that we're intervening and assessing children on a developmentally appropriate way from the time that they are in birth, so we can make sure they're experiencing high quality settings and high quality interactions with adults. So, knowing what collaboration looks like, that it is not just something at the setting level, but that it can be a part of a greater statewide effort, and knowing that the stakes are high. I want to tell you a little bit about our organization and how we can, in some ways, help provide you to be a part of that, to ensure that at the statewide level we are putting resources and advocating for high quality early education and early literacy across the state. So our organization, Strategies for Children, is a nonprofit that, again, advocates for high quality early education and early literacy by the time children are in 3rd grade. And we do that by using research to guide the advocacy efforts by building constituency, raising awareness, so trying to ensure that articles are in the Globe or in your local papers, that people are aware of this issue, and how we kind of handle early literacy. We also develop policy. We just created, over the past few years, a piece of legislation called an Act Relative to 3rd Grade Reading Proficiency, which Representative Marty Walls and Senator Catherine Clark really kind of spearheaded and championed, and it just actually was passed in July and then enacted in September. And what that really does is say whoever's in office, there's a statute to really ensure the aligning and integration of systems from birth to 3rd grade, to make sure that we are implementing the best practices across that trajectory, and that resources are also aligned and given to the effort. So we impact policy development, we raise awareness. Like I said, we are always out trying to put stories in the local papers, the Boston Globe, to ensure that we're thinking about early literacy starting from birth, and that this is something that we need to commit resources to. And then we also have a prong of our work that impacts best practices. So we've been working with 5 communities across the state, as well as a broader network, to ensure the right type of practices are being shared, in terms of, like Sherry was talking about, having high the interactions on the vocabulary piece, what curriculum looks like from each interaction that a child goes through, from the pediatrician to the early childhood to the public school, and really trying to align those efforts. So being here today, I want to go back to that message of that you all can be a part of a collective effort, and our organization really allows that gateway for you to be a part of that, to ensure that the resources at the statewide level are coming back to support the work that we know will really make an impact from birth to 3rd grade and beyond. So I'd love for you, or to show you more information, or for you to be a part of that effort.
Thank you. Next, we have Betsy Salamone, who is the Early Childhood Coordinator for Ashland Public Schools. Betsy.
Hi. I've been the Early Childhood Coordinator for the schools for the past 25 years, and what that means in the beginning is really straddling the early childhood special ed and regular ed field. Coordinating the transition of the toddlers, the kids turning 3 into our system, and following them for most of the years that I've been here through kindergarten. In the past 4 or 5 years, I've had grades 1 and 2 added to my caseload, which has made me really need to take a closer look at the whole literacy field. Now we were over here, a preschool building and kindergarten in our own little world, but not having a good grasp of really what was happening over in that other big building over there, and really where the kids were going. I think having been in the system for a number of years, it's been helpful for me to follow a number of the kids and see the progress and try to make our practices better. Did somebody pop up later that we were surprised at? Did somebody not make the progress? And really, what are the factors that go into that? It was at a kindergarten conference about 5 or 6 years ago, though, that I first heard Dr. David Dickinson, who at that time was at BC, is now down in Vanderbilt, who talked a lot about vocabulary, as you were saying, for some very striking statistics. He very much feels, in dovetailing what you said, that a child's vocabulary in kindergarten is predictive of their reading level in 3rd grade. He also, some of the studies he's done is really follow and videotape families at home, at school, to look at the vocabulary used, the quality of interactions between the teachers and the child, the frequency of the interactions, the amount of time books are read, and put that into a research study and showed the linkages that the more you talk, the more words, the more varied vocabulary, the more one-to-one interactions with adults and children. He adds an emotional component to the more comfortable level that children are engaged in a reading situation. In mealtime situations were very important for him for that engagement, that discourse engagement, building vocabulary, and his linkages were pretty clear. And the unfortunate thing is that it's also pretty clear of socioeconomic levels, that higher socioeconomic levels, children had greater vocabulary and then had higher reading levels once they hit 3rd grade, and as you said, were predictive later on. So hearing him, it got me stirring of, okay, so if you're saying these things in 5-year-olds, kindergartners, then as early childhood coordinator and getting the most at-risk children for, typical disability coming in is a delayed language. What does that mean for them? So it led me to really investigate the field of what are the elements that really need to be part of a preschool and even younger, as the research is showing, and how do you really work down. So what I put together is kind of the things that I felt were most important and illustrative. There's lots of stuff out on the web. There's a lot of library organizations statewide that are having programs. And my favorite to really show the big picture was the picture of the tree that was in the handout. This is from the Library of Virginia, and thank them for putting their mark down at the bottom, so I didn't have to then add that it really looked at reading as having the 5, and some people say 6 components in the tree, but the roots is what's very important in all of those areas. The facial expressions, the body language, the oral language development, and the gestures that all really start when the children are infants. Again, building that good foundations of interactions, of vocabulary. Don't talk baby talk. Use language, introduce new words that they soak them in, and that's what this says. All those interactions are really important, that really provide that roots for the strong foundation for the elements of reading, of all the elements they need to develop from the infants, toddlers, and preschool children to build that firm foundation. Children entering kindergarten, the stronger those skills, the more predictive of reading also. The areas: print awareness, phonological awareness, letter knowledge, vocabulary, background knowledge, what a child knows, are really important areas that you can really work on at home. I think when thinking of working on the skills at home, we're not talking about direct instructions and drilling and vocabulary cards and computer programs. It's really in tune to a young child's learning style, which is very manipulative, hands-on, relevant to them, and of high interest. So vocabulary development, books are great, reading books about the zoo and animals, but going to the zoos, learning the elements, the animals' names there, taking in the smells and the richness, feeling the animals. That's how a preschool or young child learns. It's through those experiences that make them more memorable, that really holds them in their memories better. So any of those outings, and one of my sons loved animals, so there was a particular zoo we went to. I can't even tell you how many times we went to it. But that was his favorite. And when you go to a place like that over the seasons, the animals are doing different things. There's different animals, and he always was getting something out. The elephant was doing something different. There was new goats sometimes, but that was a very rich experience for him. That was relevant. That was an interest, and I could build in other activities within that. Now, I think I just did that instinctively. I can look back and say, oh yeah, I was really doing all those things, building vocabulary. And like you read a book, you read a book, I think they say 4 times. You should read it 4 times to build. First time they read it, then you ask questions. I saw the zoo as the same thing with him. Each time he learned something new, he could come back and ask some other things, and that was his. So making those relevant early learning opportunities and building that foundation of the oral language and the engagement and the curiosity and the high interest and working on interests. What I did over the weekend was, I have that display over on the middle table, is breaking down into the areas of reading. And it's broken down into infant toddlers, preschoolers. There's a school age broken down. I didn't put those in because I didn't think that was our draw. But there's a lot, and then I hit the dollar store. There's a lot of easy materials out there that really build the early literacy activities without really, that you might not know it. And again, because it's beginning as infants, you're building, you'll see some of the activities are discrimination of sorting by colors. Well, sorting by colors, you're looking, discriminating, and that will lead to sorting categories of objects or sorting letters so that, one letter isn't the same. There's letters, print awareness is the letters can look different even though they say the same thing. So there's a real chronology of building those skills of, as I said, dollar store, Dollar Tree, activities over there that are very easy. Some of the other things that are fun some of the time, even little rattles that you work on phonological awareness skills, that's working on that listening and listening how words divide into 2, like hot dog. Just, again, embedding a fun activity for your child, but making it a learning experience as part of whatever. It could be pancake, but it's one of those skills of learning how to listen to words and listen to sounds and then break them apart so that when you read and you have the sound symbol association, you know how to put a CAT together, a k, a, at. That, again, this is the foundation for all of that reading that is a little more visible in 1st and 2nd grade, but you need this foundation, the solid foundation, in order to really make the best of the reading programs and reading development. Some of the other things that I think kids love are the books with the puppets. This is a ladybug for the grouchy ladybug, and again, it makes it relevant. It makes hands-on. It makes the much more interesting that they can really feel it. And not only do you see the book, but you see how many legs does it have? What are the colors of it? Our ladybug is always this color. So there's a lot of discussions that can take place, and pulling on David Davidson's work, but also what's called dialogic reading, which is essentially a fancy name for reading a book, but interaction reading a book, not just reading a book. And you can have a child listen to a book on an iPad, but this type of reading, and which is also in your handout too, is the third one, is dialogic here, and say reading overview for parents and caregivers. So you know, again, it's the reading the book the 4 times, but it's reading, asking questions, engaging your child, making predictions that really get, you know, at some of those early reading processes while you're developing language, developing interest in books, learning about the world, that really is important, again, in those early reading activities. I didn't mention that in the your middle page is a 2-page of the practices, more specific of the phonological awareness, the vocabulary, of other things you can do. For the son on your sheet is also the activities that you can do. So through singing and talking, reading, writing, playing, of how all the 5 areas of reading can be embedded throughout the activities. I think we naturally sing to young children, and I think it's easy to build in the singing and the rhyme into those activities. I don't know about you, but even to this day, I think about 30 days, half September, April, June, and about, you know, there's just one of those catchy rhymes that, you know, it's a straight memorization, but if you kind of build it into a song, and it just helps develop, again, those early skills. So this breaks it down into 2 pages of all the different things you can do. I have found, and I forgot to bring the website. I think it might be Garden Songs, but there is a website that has all the songs with the words and the tunes in case parents need refresher of some of those. I think we've really gone back to a lot of the rhyming and the nursery rhymes. You know, the nursery rhymes, some of them, when you listen to them, they're kind of like, oh, really? But the value, I think, in the rhyming of them and the predictive value of, you know, when you read a book or you read a rhyme and you leave the last word off, and that the child really can start filling it in, is, again, is